Well, we're going to get now reaction from Washington with our correspondent, Fraser Jackson, who joins me live from there. Fraser, Washington, of course, Israel's biggest ally. What has the White House had to say about this massive strike from Iran on Israel?
Well, the US once again saying that it's fully behind Israel and fully behind its right to self-defense. And in the aftermath of this attack, it appears that Washington is helping Israel to identify how best to go about retaliation for this attack. We heard shortly after the attack happened from Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor, who said we will consult with the Israelis on next steps in terms of the response and how to deal with what Iran has just done. There will be severe consequences for this attack, and we will work with Israel to make that the case. Now, if you remember, in the wake of the first attack on Israel from Iran back in April, the Israelis vowed a big response after that, even though 99% of those projectiles had been shot down. Well, it was the US who managed to walk them back from a wider response and instead got them to settle for a more targeted single response on an air defense unit outside of a nuclear facility in Iran. That will be much more difficult this time round to get the Israelis to stop the escalation dramatically, because of the fact that this attack that we saw on Tuesday was much more targeted by Iran. It was a much heavier attack in terms of the ballistic missiles that were aimed at Israel, therefore a lot harder to shoot down than what we saw in April. So there will likely be a bigger response than we saw from Israel coming up soon, but we don't know when that's going to happen. But the US says is helping Israel to ascertain which targets likely should be targeted and what that response will look like.
Fraser, this attack came just a few hours before the vice presidential debate that was on last night. I mean, what kind of effect did that have on the debate? How did the candidates react to that? And what kind of effect might all of this have on the presidential campaign?
Well, it was the top subject at the debate. It was the first opening topic was Israel, and it was something that both candidates obviously spoke to. Both sides clearly, again, both pro-Israel, and saying that just like the US government, Israel has a right to defend itself. This foreign policy, especially this aspect of foreign policy, has really been quite a hot-button topic in the United States and in this election, because there are a lot of Jewish Americans and there are a lot of Arab and Palestinian Americans as well. And the significant tranche of those Palestinian Americans happen to live in a state, Michigan, which is a key swing state, and it was a very close swing state in the last election as well. It's also been quite a political hot potato for Joe Biden. When he was at the top of the ticket, it was arguably one of the things that was dragging down his numbers so much, not only with the Palestinian Americans, but also with the youth vote as well. Harris, for her side of the ticket, has managed to somewhat escape slightly being tarred with the same brush as Joe Biden, but it is still something which is impacting her numbers in the polls. Donald Trump, for his part as well, saying that if he was president, none of these wars would happen. Not only the war in between Israel and Hamas, but also the war in Ukraine as well. Donald Trump spoke about this at a rally in Texas last night, and he said that if I were in charge, today's attack on Israel never would have happened. All the things we're talking about never would have happened, including the botched withdrawal that made us look so bad there regarding Afghanistan back in 2021. So something again for Donald Trump to run on, and something that he will be bringing up time and time again as we get to the election day on November 5th.
Fraser, thank you for that. Fraser Jackson there reporting from Washington.